You reinvented a new way of looking at the landscape, particularly Australian landscape, so your vision was absolutely fresh. The painting that brought us here today for this conversation was the rainforest,
Yes.
1990. Well, it's over 30 years ago now.
We'd been living at the Beachmont property for 6 years, more or less, when that painting was done. We did have a little bit of rainforest where Botan Creek fell from the top of Beachmont onto our property, a few acres of rainforest. It was not a forbidding place. The rainforest, I realised, was a place of great iridescence, not open, bright sunlight, but refraction, giving an inner cave-like picture, this iridescence. It was like almost like a primal landscape. We had a couple of 100 acres. Every day I walked over the landscape trying to understand it, and at the same time I could understand that it wasn't a sort of landscape where you could put your easel up and paint from a particular position in the tradition of painting, as it were, in the landscape. It was more, I had to include the feeling of movement and time somehow. I also wanted to create the feeling somewhat like as though a bird was flying through it.
It was like a journey. You could discuss it as a journey.
In that rainforest, I was looking up at the sun as it was traversing the tops of the trees and casting light down through the various forms. And I realised that in a way there was another dimension required to paint that picture, bringing it into some sort of fourth dimension, which also included time, without moving outside of the tradition of landscape painting. Because when paintings were being produced of the Australian landscape, it was historically assumed that it was finished.
The ancient trees are something marvellous. I understand they'll be 2,000 years old as Christ.
The ancient trees, they're not large, they're gnarled, and they're almost like the human being disintegrating with age, but not dying, even though they're 2,000 years old. I could sense a connection with eternity through them. And you realise how little you know and have to accept about the unknown in creation.
In the painting, there's a floating branch, which you indicate is a feeling of the higher presence.
Well, I suppose the search for a spirituality. It is something that happens where you can move outside of yourself and be carried into not a space which belongs to geography, but a space that belongs outside of you. And once you can reach that sort of point, you can make some sort of connection with eternity, spirituality, and God.
I've read that you say that music brings out the senses and the spirit in you. Your mind switches off and goes into another level while you're painting and listening to music.
I don't listen to music so that I'm painting anything about the music, its rhythm or its subject or anything like that, but just to place my mind so that the painting, in a way, is in control of itself, which sounds very strange, but it's like that. Once I realise that I'm conscious of every brush mark that I'm making, I think it's time to stop. It's very hard to live in contemporary times. because contemporary times are about a different form of life. I can't base my art on something that I've not lived. I don't belong to the computer generation or digital images.
You're probably lucky.
Well, I find that when I go out, I can see at the bus stop, say, 4 or 5 people on their mobile phones, and I think there has to be a price that they're paying of not looking at the world in some way. Or if they haven't paid it yet, maybe the next generation will pay it if they forget that the world needs attention as well.